Magic is believing in yourself. If you can make that happen, you can make anything happen. A warm good afternoon and welcome everyone present here. Thank you for joining us today's webinar. Let me introduce myself. My name is Bharti Datta. I will be responsible for hosting this free international webinar on behalf of SEMS Welfare Foundation. And I am glad to welcome Dr. Subhasiri Subhadan Siri, who will present on the topic of language and communication. Language is the roadmap of a culture. It tells you where its people come from and where they are going. I see lot many people have joined. So without any further delay, let me introduce our organization. SEMS Welfare Foundation is not a profit entity established to work in the areas of education, social welfare, women empowerment, skill development, and entrepreneurship, livelihood generation, and employability, health, research, culture, independent corporation, sports, environment protection, or any other similar sector. We promote healthy lives, balanced and active communities, and a strong business. It allows you volunteer member to concentrate their energies and effort on long-term goals when freed from day-to-day details. We are glad to have Dr. Suhasri Suvadarshini is a faculty assistant professor in English in the Department of Basic Science and Humanities at Silicon Institute of Technology, Bhubaneswar, Orissa. She received her doctorate in 2019 from Utkal University, Bhubaneswar. She believes quality should always surpass quantity. She loves exploring new areas for research, language, and communication. Her research interests include American literature, contemporary studies, ancient Greek mythology, and others. History, folk arts, media studies, movie review, gender studies, critical theory, and many more. She has more than 15 years of teaching experience and is an avid traveler also. I would like to give my heartiest welcome to our guest, Dr. Subhasri Subhadarshini ma'am. Now over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Bharti. And I welcome you all to the seminar and conference. Okay, now if I get confused or if I try to make you confused with a seminar and a conference as words, probably I'll be right on track with my topic, isn't it? Because many people are still not sure whether it's a seminar or a conference when we are asked to attend one. So it's the name which matters. And we have been using language to name such things as per our convenience, right? So when I was invited to this conference, I was a little apprehensive about what should my topic be about. Then I realized I was writing a paper and I was researching something around language and the history of language to teach my students about it. So I think this is the correct topic to discuss because without language, probably human race would not be existing today. Okay, so without wasting time, I'll start with my presentation. Many of us often wonder if language would not exist, what would exist? I myself find myself wondering how many times I have been trying to make people understand what I say, trying not to speak when not needed to, and also trying to understand what is the unspoken words. Many a time, we are also left with thinking what could have been said better in better situations. What can be used in place of this word to make this sound more interesting. So with this, we start today's topic. First, I'll go ahead with the first part of my presentation, that is language. What do we understand by language? Language is first and the foremost a tool. Language is a tool which has helped us to communicate. Language is a tool which has helped us to share. Language is a tool which has helped us to survive. Language is a tool which has helped us to build cultures, relationships, and so many other things. We have been sharing just because we have a language to share. Now, what is language? Language is a combination of sounds. When we speak, we produce sounds or rather utterances, and these sounds are traveled across distance, and the listener tries to receive this, understand the utterances, and then derive meaning from these sounds. Okay, so now if I say any sound is a as has meaning, maybe, may not be, depends on the speaker and the receiver who received this. So we can derive that language is a systematic set of symbols, so that we can derive meaning of it. Other utterances probably do not uh, make the meaning so visible. Okay, so I'll go ahead with the oldest concept of what Aristotle said to be what language can be, and that is it's a speech sound which humans produce to express their ideas, emotions, speech desires, and much more, and many other things. So, if Aristotle could understand it, then probably the importance of language today has exceeded his statement and much more. Human life without sound is without language is meaningless. Yes. Now, moving ahead, let's understand what is the nature of language. What can be the nature of language? Now, nature means how language has been traveling over the years and generations to reach its current state. Now, language is dynamic and a living formation. Now, understanding what is dynamic and living formation is that language cannot be, you can say, limited to a few people. Over the years, when language was developed, and we have had a species of, or you can say, a time zone of using language, and language has had its own path to pave, and it has traveled over from Neolithical age, from pictures to symbols, from symbols to words, from words, sorry, alphabet to words, from words to sentences, and from sentences to paragraphs, and then the whole text. So it is very dynamic because it can take place between two or more people or even groups. So, and also we can use language in variety of ways and formations. So obviously, because people use it and we are living beings, we can say that language is dynamic and a living formation. Now, why is language called to be arbitrary? What is the meaning of arbitrary? The word arbitrary is actually implies to the independence of language itself. How is it language independent itself? We have to now understand that language consists of speech sounds, and these speech sounds produce meaning. Now, how do these produce meaning? When we refer to a object, suppose like the apple. Now, the spelling of apple is a apple. Now, I don't understand sometimes how these sounds anyhow relate to the word apple, or the picture apple, or the word apple itself. If I show an apple to a child and then describe it with the properties of an orange, do you think the child will take it to be an apple or an orange? Now, the question is yes, the properties to describe an apple as an orange will be taken as an orange, not as an apple, because you have introduced it to be a orange, not an apple. So that is what I was saying is the object and the spelling are not related to each other. It is how we have used over the time a word and its relativeness to that particular word or the particular object that it derives its own meaning. So we can say language is independent and it is affected by its socio-cultural implications. Then how is language unique? Language is unique because it is different from each other. Every language has its own differences. Every language has its own structure, it has its own grammatical variations, it has its own pronunciation. Every language also has words which have different sounds, they have different relations among them. So this is how language has variety in its own way. So it's unique. How is language applicable to social variation? Yes, when we use a language, it is often a show of social standing or social spheres. Now imagine yourself standing in a room which has a room full of diplomats. Now you will find yourself unconsciously referring to words like politics, lawmaking, amendments, and all these. But now come down to a level of students. You will be referring to words like projects, assignment, and you will be talking about probably Insta, then uploads, likes, dislikes. So social variations, language can modify itself as per the requirement of the person and its need. So these are social variations. Why is language universal? It's universal because whatever we need to communicate, be it any language, whether be it Russian, French, German, English, Hindi, or Chinese, we need a medium which is language to communicate. Whether we speak it through words or we speak it through sign language, but the medium to understand each other is through language. Language is also flexible because we can modify language as per our requirement. We can use language as per our need. We can use language to ask somebody for, we can request somebody. We can use the same language to reprimand somebody. We can use a same set of words to command somebody. Okay, so language is flexible. Language is very species oriented. Why species oriented? Probably human beings are the only species who can use language with ease, comfort, and that we are endowed with this special significance of using language to our benefit. Other species around the world or on Earth probably do not share this so-called, I would say, gift from our race. Then language is specifically used for instructions or information. Most of the, if you have never paid attention to what you are using, in day-to-day life, you can pay attention to at least 1 hour, and then you can just pay attention to 1 hour of what you talk in day-to-day life. Probably 70% of it would be information or instruction. Now, if you have never done it, please do pay attention to at least 1 hour of what you speak in day-to-day life. Language is or was or is the way we build relationships. Without language, it would be difficult to communicate our feelings to others, and our emotions would not find a vent or would not find a solution to be shared with others. So, language definitely helps to build relations. Language transcends culture. Yes, culture exists because we are able to use language to our benefit. Language can be said to be the cultural carriers because over the years, language has been used to show how a culture has been developing over the years. Now, since my interest is in this folklores, many of you must be aware about folklores. Like suppose Panchatantra tales, at least you should be acquainted with it, or you have heard it. It's a great childhood, fantasy to have or own a series of Panchatantra tale books by students when we were kids also. So Panchatantra tales gives a glimpse of how or what was the socio-economic and educational scenario in our country during the ancient times. That is what the underlying ones. Our folklores are an example of what has been traveling over years through word to mouth over the years. So somehow we have also carried the cultural implications through our language, through folklores. Now, language can die and become extinct. Now, what is this? How can a language die? Languages die because people or the group of people using that particular language stop using that language in day-to-day life. Okay, so like general communication में वो लोग use नहीं करते हैं इसको. They do not use this in day-to-day life, and gradually they stop using this language for written or oral purposes or in written communication. So this allows the language to become non-existent for them, and gradually the using this language for for communication stops and we shift to another language. So in this way, these languages become either dead, where there are no speakers to speak the language, or these languages become dead or endangered language because they are no more used for oral or written purposes. Now, every language has a grammatical structure. This is what we have discussed in uniqueness. So every language has a unique structure. Hindi has a structure, English has a structure, every language has a structure. Languages follow generally follows a oral way of traveling. So most of the communication we do are oral communication, and that is why languages need to be transferred. Okay. So moving on to the next slide, let's understand what is communication. Communication and language are interrelated with each other. Communication is not possible if we do not use language as a medium to communicate. Yes, communication also can be done by verbal or non-verbal ways. Verbal and non-verbal we'll be discussing later on in the discussion. Let's understand what is communication first. Communication can be defined as sharing or transfer of information, data, feelings, emotions from one to other as individual or group in ways where the receiver is able to receive the message in the same intended meaning as the sender intended. That is, if I'm able to speak something or ask you to get something from me, many times it has happened in your day-to-day life also that somebody has requested you to bring something by describing it to you, and when the product reaches the person, you have taken great efforts to get it maybe, but still the person is a little dissatisfied because it simply does not fall into the category of the need of the person. Now imagine if you are still not able to understand it. Let me tell you, maybe your sister or the female members in your family ask you to choose the color red. Now ask you to get the color blood red, and or the color deep red, or the color pink red. Now it's a whole lot of red. Okay, now the poor man is most of the time um, a little confused about what is this whole lot of blood red, pink red, red, and deep red about. So the shades do make a difference because we are simply able or confused with how we receive the message. That is, the receiver is not able to get the intended meaning sent by the sender. Now, communication is a series of experiences: hearing, smelling, seeing, touching, and responding. These all make up the dynamic process about which I was talking in the first slide. Communication is derived by the process which includes first hearing, the utterances or the sounds which are created by the speaker. Now, if you are still thinking how smell, seeing, and touching also are a part of communication, I'll tell you that gradually in the slides. We are able to smell a flower, that's a physical activity, but when we see a rose, it automatically appears to be beautiful, and you can smell the roses even if it is not near you. So the rose is a symbol which signifies its beauty and its fragrance without even getting nearer to the person. Now, seeing and touching. Now, touching also is one of the ways communication enhances our experience, because if you are like, you can imagine a child who responds to the touch of his mother. Now, though there are no languages used by the mother to pacify a crying baby, but still just the touch or the pat of the mother, the warm pats of the mother, gradually calms down a crying baby, and the response or the responding child is gradually soothed and starts to have a lot of laugh around him. Now, if many of you must have come across, like when we sit and talk among ourselves, you must have come across situations where you shift from one topic to the other and the other. This gradually happens when we are in a group discussion, or we are in a gossip in our friend zones, or we are in a comfort zones when we talk among our friends. We can easily see ourselves jumping from one topic to the other and the other and the other, but we have forgotten that it is all a series of actions which have taken place without you giving any conscious effort to it. So our mind is able to listen, hear, touch, respond to the series of statements, questions, instructions, and information without having any like time to be taken. Why is communication important? Communication is important, first of all, for survival. It is also important for expressing, and it is also important then again for understanding and responses. Now, imagine yourself in a room full of people where you're asked to think. you're asked to think and then respond that the moon is going to be substituted for the sun. Now, this is a very difficult thing to imagine because that will never happen. You know it in your mind. Now, the speaker forces you to think this, and you are like, why is the speaker asking me to think about it? So now your expression of information, behavior, feelings, and thoughts are greatly disturbed because of the statement of the speaker. Now, it is up to you whether you understand his statement and respond that it is never possible, or you share your knowledge that this is not practically possible. But at the same time, you also need to understand why the particular person has given this statement to you. Let's understand a little bit about language and communication. What language and communication share in common? Language and communication both are used to express thoughts. Now, if you are thinking communication is language, no, communication is not language itself. Communication and language are two different words, and their purposes are also different, and their way of expressions are also different. The communication and language both help us to think. This is one thing we have used to our fullest, you can say, extent. Every individual can try and use this medium to their fullest interest, because having a proper grasp over a good grasp over the language and a good skill of communication can make us great individuals and improve our intellect. Both language and communication as acquired skills. Yes, you need to understand that languages need to be learned, practiced, and honed to become perfect. The better your language grips are, the better your communications will be and better scopes for development. Both language and communication enhance mental health of people. When you are clear about your thoughts and you can express your thoughts clearly, this is where we can understand we do not have the issues with miscommunication, or you can say misjudgments. So we are ill at ease. We are not at all ill at ease to understand that somebody has not understood us, or we have been misunderstood by people. Languages communication helps to refine our social skills. Without language, probably we would not be able to say two of the most important words or three of the more important words, that is, thank you, sorry, and please, which are the best words to be used as social skills. So we need language and proper communication skills and channels to use these words in the best ways. Language and communication helps to gain knowledge. Knowledge is something which is person specific. A person can think the gaining knowledge is a lifetime process. Another person may think they know everything. Now, knowledge acquisition also depends on language and communication. Helps in both language and communication help to improve emotional development. Now, think at times when you are unable to understand people in their fullest way, or think at times when you were misunderstood by people. Think at times when you were not able to clearly make out something. Now you have to understand, think at times when you have cried over things and later understood that this was for nothing. Now, without the proper communication channel and proper words and phrases to be used as language, we often get to misunderstand things. Language and communication helps for logical thinking. Rational thinking is something which is only possible when we are clear about what words to wear when and how. So, language and communication help to have logical, clear thinking. They help to develop channel this help in cognitive development. Now, cognitive development is something which is very required in human. Without cognitive development, we would not be able to do the simplest of tasks. Now, communication skills and language skills greatly help to improve the cognitive skills of people. It helps to imagine. Many of you must have said stories to your children and asked them to imagine a fairy who comes at night and say sweet dreams to your child. Now imagine your child imagining this fairy. Now you have used language to tell your child the story about the fairy. Without language, would you make it possible? Would your child smile and you be happy? Now think what language has done for you and how your communication skills have made your child's day probably. Now communication and language helps to upgrade intelligence. Without information sharing and instructions, we would not be able to improve our intelligence. Or you can say, if you would not ask questions, you would not be curious enough to find those answers. So it has definitely helped to gain intelligence. I'll share with you some myths and realities of language and communication. Now, why I say it to be myth and reality? Because many of us are aware about it, but we are not sure about what to make of this. Many of us, I think all of us, do not pay much attention to how or what our language can do to us. Language is very powerful. Language can be used to make kingdoms. Language can be used to, you can say, start wars. Language and communication together can solve probably as much of problems as the world has to think about. Now, language and communication are an art as much as science. Now, you must be wondering why this first statement. Yes, it is an art because communication, learning a language is an art. Every language is an art in itself because it has all the things required to make a person's life beautiful. So, definitely, language is an art and communication is a skill. Communication, I would say, language is the art and communication is the science because communication is very, very dynamic. Because in a group of people, you are able to think with different thoughts, show actions with different people, respond to their topics, which may be varied, answer their body languages, and also at the same time express your own viewpoint. Now, it's a science because so much of variations together, put together, is really difficult to handle. It's completely like you are multitasking or you are multi speaking at the same time. So, language has more than 7,000. There are more than 7,000 languages in the world, and probably with our efforts, we can create more languages to our benefit. Then, using correct words in correct places is a challenge. Yes, we have been facing this so many times. Many a times we have thought that, why did I use this word? अरे ये मैंने क्या बोल दिया? These are like, we are really, if we just knew to use the correct words in the correct places, probably half the world's problems would be solved. Cause and effect theory. Yes. What is cause and effect theory in language and communication? Cause and effect theory probably is you knowing the correct language and using it to the benefit of self. Now, this is not always possible because most of the language used in communication is spontaneous. We are dependent on oral communication in our lifetimes. So, oral communication is very, very spontaneous and it takes in fractions of seconds, which makes it difficult to actually think before you speak. Even if you have been said time and again from childhood that think before you speak, but it is simply not possible because we are not able or we are not trained enough to think before you speak because the simple signs that it takes place in milliseconds or fractions of seconds. But still, we can train ourselves to stop this cause and effect theory to our and use this to our benefit. Culture and its trivialities. Now, understand what is culture first. Culture is a set of rules and regulations or norms or practices which have been followed by a group of people. Okay. Now, why is this important, or why we call it? It has trivialities because, like you, as an Indian, I would say I have been taught that culture can form in many forms. Culture can be a form of food which we use in our festivals, clothes which we use in our festivals, using shlokas and reading scriptures, religious scriptures is a form of our culture. Being obedient is a form of our culture. Greeting as namaste is a form of our culture. But then again, with the changing world, we have also adapted and modified ourselves to the present scenarios, and we have kept the culture to ourselves and also become a globalized entity also. So with our new identity as a global like moving forward person or a successful person, we have also understood that culture needs to be kept at hand. Now imagine yourself speaking with people of different cultures. Each person or each individual has its own set of cultures to work forward to it, and they are grown and brought up in this. Pauses, utterances, or even silences has meaning. Now these utterances, pauses, have given meaning to uh, your life. You have paused in places where you think you need to take a break. You have uttered words where you need to understand that probably I have said more about something. You are afraid about something. You have remained silent in places and expected people to understand you, and you have been understood. So they do speak and have meaning when we use them in communication. More words have never meant that you are understood better. This is very true. Rather, the opposite is more true. The less number of words solves the problem of being misunderstood. Being to the point also helps you to understand, but not at the cost of using vocabulary as truth. When you have the correct words to put in correct places with correct expressions, that is what makes you a good communicator. This to understand the differences between words, and understand also how words are used in different places. For example, language and communication, I said at the beginning, they are two different words used in two different places. Now, gender issues in language. Now, you'll be very interesting. This is a very interesting thing, gender issues in language. Now, I'll give a small example of people using gender to attach with nouns. If I say the statement बस आ रहा है या बस आ रही है, some people use बस आ रही है, some other use बस आ रहा है. Now in in Indian subcontinent, or in Asian, in English, or in Hindi, we have, or in any other languages of the parts of the world, we generally have this habit of using nouns or attaching a gender to the nouns. So this has to be very careful, because this gender assignment to nouns also changes as per culture. Correct expressions save time trouble. When you have good expressions to speak about with your nonverbal communication, it saves a lot of trouble of being misunderstood. Language also creates potential. It helps you to be established as a good speaker, a good speaker who can be dependable, who is true, who is disciplined, and is not misunderstood much. So it creates opportunities for you and helps you to establish your success. What is effectiveness of language and how communication depends on it? If we are able to use language to our benefit, then obviously language and communication have solved their purpose. So language and communication can be used to solve problems, increase productivity. Correct communication channels and correct instructions and information definitely elevate your success criteria. It reduces the level of stress because you are able to respond to people and situations. Your relationship with others become better. People want to talk to you over and build relationship. Your ability to meet your goal increases because you're able to follow instructions and gather information in the correct order and make it very systematic. It helps you to achieve your dreams and increases your level of satisfaction in your life. A short exercise I would like to do. These are a few words I have listed here, and a few four questions I had put at the end. What do these words create in your mind, or rather, what? How can you relate these words to in your life? Do you relate these words to emotions, or intelligence, or gender, or quality? If you have anything in your mind, like sophisticated, you have anything which comes to your mind, or any other word, can you please share, participants?
Ma'am,
Okay,
can you?
Bharti, can you pick up any word and say कि पहला थॉट मेरे दिमाग में ये आ रहा है इस वर्ड को लेके.
And beauty?
Okay. And
Yes.
what does the word beauty, what is the thing which comes to your mind when you use the word beauty?
I'm beautiful like girls when they wear makeup.
Yes, beautiful girls. Okay.
Yeah,
Anybody else? Handsome, like sexy, like Chris Evans, because he has been just been nominated as the sexiest man alive on the earth. Anybody else who would like to share? What do take one of the words and say what is the first thing which comes to your mind? You can relate to it. Honesty is thinking of my parents. Wisdom, uh, beauty and wisdom of life. Fascinating, beautiful, unconditional love. Okay, some have given very goodly. Now I'll tell you why I have put these pictures to astonishing. Okay, so I'll tell you why and how we communicate. See, for my nephew of 22 years old, probably this car is a beauty for him. It's sophisticated, it's sleek, it's just the dream thing which he wants to have in his life. And at the same time, for a nephew of for my niece or my nephew or my neighbor's son who is 15-year-old, probably this lady will do the wonders of a beauty. At the same time, me or a person similar who loves the quiet and solitude of life, probably this place would serve the purpose of a beauty. Beautiful place, beautiful mind, just the thing which we want in our life. Okay, so now think, different people, different attitudes, different same word with different meanings. See what language has done to you. We have used the same word in different places. Why does it happen so? The question is this: because language has made you to think the same thing in different ways. I'll go ahead with this great quotation, which I really love, and I would like people also to know. Lester B. Pearson was a Nobel Prize winner for peace in 1957. He was also the former Chief Minister of Canada. So when he got his Nobel Peace Prize in 1957, he had rightly stated that how can there be peace without people understanding each other? And how can this be if they do not know each other? Now, language is important because it helps it helps people to understand that they need each other and peace is required. And if they do not understand the language, if people do not understand the language, probably there would be no peace because they just do not understand each other. So language is important. Language is needed if we want to do it. And not only language, we need to use the language which is correct, which is appropriate in appropriate places. Now, it's a whole lot of science, I feel sometimes, because how the hell would a person know that how to use the correct words in correct places? It is just trying to understand what a lady thinks like. I have directly come to this slide because with language and communication, inevitably we are dealing with people around us. So we need to understand that using language in communication is the end result is it's a procedure we are using on people. It's like we are experimenting on people and trying to derive things from them. So we need to understand a few things like first is postures and gestures with the word P. Why are postures and gestures important? Yes, how you sit, how you stand, how you use your words to describe. Now imagine if your kindergarten teacher has never said you twinkle, twinkle, you would never understand that stars do twinkle at night, even if there is a science behind it. Okay. A good posture of a person gives the dignity up to the individual as smart, as dependable, as comfortable, as lazy. So gestures and postures are really important if you are dealing with people. Eye contact. Please have eye contact with your people who you are talking to. Eye contact not only allows you to get the receiver's reaction, it also makes them feel that you are paying attention to them. They are important for you, and this opens up a whole new world of dependence and interdependence. Who would not like to be in to have attention? Be oriented. Understand that you and your body language are important. Where you stand, how you stand are important. Deliver your messages not with just the motto of delivering it. Understand that you are delivering it with a purpose. There's a purpose of why you are speaking this language and why you are communicating, because every communication comes with a purpose. This purpose should allow you or motivate you to make sure that you are delivering your message in a correct way. Ultimately, you have to receive a feedback from your message. Your looks are important. Of course, if we say that clothes do not make a man, but yes, clothes definitely help to make a better man. Okay. So your clothes, your appearance, your looks, your accessories do play a big part in communication. This is what makes you smart, sexy, soft, sophisticated, elegant. Now you can attach all these words to people and things around you. Express your emotions. The facial expressions are very important because you can say you are angry but still smile, but people will know you are angry. So remember to use your emotions in check and practice having good facial expression. I'll move on to the last slide, which is almost the last slide towards the end of my presentation. We need to understand the barriers in communication so that, and language also, so that we do not have difficulty in expressing ourselves. So please pay attention to how you are using your language and try to make your communication better. Be aware that poor expressions can be a total no-no because this is what people would not. Would you like to have a crying expression of your child when you return to from a hectic job? Probably not. Do not stereotype or assume people and things. Language should be should be a medium to be used to build relationships. When you assume and have prejudice or stereotypes against people, we most of the time take them for granted, which is a serious folly. Emotions, yes. Since we have understood that we have created language to communicate, to build relationships. Obviously, emotions need to be kept in check. Be consistent because inconsistency in language and communication do not allow people to come closer to you. This does not make you more dependable or trustworthy. Physical barriers in communication are a major problem, but at least in this century, we should not speak about physical barriers because we can. This webinar is itself held in a even despite physical barriers, we are still connected. Be sufficiently aware about things so that they do not form barriers. Today, we live a knowledge friendly world. We can find things or information in the click of a mouse. So, we do not have to worry about what or how we need to receive information and how to use the information probably may be a problem. Individual differences do exist, and we should be aware that these differences need to be respected and understood. Lack of feedback in communication is a big problem because probably the person does not have language to communicate or does not know how to communicate. Infer to people, that is, refer to people and situations, even if they do not use language to communicate. We can also communicate non-verbally by using gestures, postures, or we nod to people to understand, acknowledge somebody, so we can definitely get feedback from them. Insecurity in using language, like you must have come across many people who are not comfortable using English or some other language in communication. This is a big problem because they do not gradually use that language to communicate, and whatever little issues they have, it becomes a bigger issue. Environment is a big problem in barriers because the environment around you may be noisy. Suppose you live near a railway station, you have trains coming in, it's noisy. There are physical barriers, there are psychological barriers. You are unwell, you are simply not able to understand what your boss is saying. Time is a huge issue in communication because we need to understand how and when we need to speak things. I have used this slide to make you understand that language is very old. It's have been improving in its own by the difference in people, culture, varieties. It has traveled a long way to the present generation, with every more than 4,000 words coming into existence all over the world, getting added to the language dictionary. We need to understand that it's growing. It's growing and it's growing at a pace which is faster than what we can imagine. So when we learn a language, we need to master it gradually through practice, patience, and perseverance so that we can communicate better. Towards the end, I would just like to say this last slide, and I leave with this thought that use language to communicate, but when we use language to communicate, many times we forget what we are communicating, or rather, is what we are communicating important? Probably not. Rather, how we are communicating what needs to be communicated is more important. So, how we communicate and how and what needs to be communicated should be the last thing I would like to say. Please review yourself and try to communicate better. Learn to utilize your language to your benefit and hope you all the success in using your language to gain more heights and more portfolios in your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, sharing such a wonderful and knowledgeable topic with us. The topic was really very interesting. It will help us to give balance for our personal and professional life. Ma'am, there are few questions from participant.
Okay.
Ma'am, the first question is some best method to excel in our communication skill.
This is something which my students have been asking me from the last 15 years actually, because many of them belong to not like we are all almost belonging in India is diverse with languages. So we have dialects and we have registers, we have jargon, so much to think about. Yes, you can do one thing. What you can do is you can start by reading a lot of things. Be it any language, I would like to say, be it any language you want to learn, you can simply start reading a lot of things in the particular language. Like suppose you take English. If you want to master the language English, you can simply take a lot of things of your choice. If you love to, you have to inculcate a habit of reading a lot of things first, or listening to things. You can listen to Hollywood movies which have English. You can listen to live broadcasts in English. Probably cricket commentaries if you are a fan of cricket. Make sure that whatever you read and listen should be in English. Okay. And after this is not all. You have to write a little bit so that you know whatever you have, whatever words or phrases you have collected in English, you can use it in writing. And the last is speaking, obviously. Whatever you read, listen, or you use in writing, you have to speak and practice to make it better. So you can try this.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, one more question. Why
Yes.
students can't come forward to even attend how to learn skills, communication, anything that is research oriented?
This is probably because, like my experience says, students do not come forward to communicate or communicate anything that is research oriented because they do not have much idea about it. They do not have idea about what actually this research is about. What the teacher or faculty or the facilitator can do probably is they can call those group of students and use good language to make and explain them what exactly this research is about. What can be the benefits of this research? What is the scope of this research? means future में इसका क्या हो सकता है इस research का? Probably then they will understand the facility that students can understand that how they need to put more effort, why they need to put more effort in this research. Yes. Any other question?
And one more question.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. And the answer, how to overcome stage fear at the time of presentation?
Okay. There is only one way to overcome stage fear. जो बोलते हैं ना, करते जाओ तब तक नहीं होता. That is the only way. Keep doing it till you don't master it. मतलब when I was a kid, you may think me to be a great speaker today or a good speaker today, but even I had my share of stage fears. Okay, the first time I gave speech, I got the first prize. The second time I got, I was completely blank. This may be a great news to people or my listeners. I was completely blank. I forgot the topic. Okay, I was so embarrassed because I was the first prize winner, and then I forgot about the topic. I decided that that's it. I took part in anything what happened in my school days to college days, and gradually it became a second self to me. So please practice and push yourself to stand and speak in any situation possible. Do it till you don't master it.
Ma'am, there is one more question from Rajveer. What are the
Okay.
greatest challenges to good communication and how to overcome it?
The greatest challenge to communication is probably practice. We do not practice, we do not master our vocabulary and language. We don't master the language we need to communicate. That is why we are not able to, communicate. Like we are not able to communicate in the correct way possible. We are not able to find correct words to fill in correct places. If we can do that, probably we'll be the next best motivational speaker or the best speaker in the world.
Ma'am, one more question.
Yes.
I am a researcher and sometimes due to crowd in the room, I fainted.
Okay, again, stage fear.
Yeah, it's
I think you have a little bit of anxiety issues, including emotional, like you get emotional and have stage fear. What you can do is you can, like I have tried it many times and suggest my students, why don't you stand on the rooftop of your house and try practicing and speaking to the air or the environment loudly. Okay, you can stand in front of the mirror and practice, Then gradually speak in front of small groups of your friends and people you are comfortable with, and try from known to unknown faces. Probably then you won't be so apprehensive about standing in front of the crowd and speak. One more thing, please do research about the topic a lot so that you are confident enough that you will not go wrong anywhere.
Ma'am, one question from my side.
Okay.
Is our body language important to express things where we can
Yes.
express it by communication? Is it important to express by our body language?
Yes, body language is very important in communication. Okay. Now imagine if I would be giving this speech by stopping my video, will it be will people like it? The simple presence of the face, which has expressions, is itself inciting enough for people to look at something. Imagine your food which looks good, very good rather. It's like a platter of colors and yeah, you are automatically start wanting to eat it. It's just like that. So body language makes people look forward to meeting you or listening to you or communicating with you. It is very important because body language is more genuine than verbal communication. Okay, all your expressions speak more about you than what your words can convey. It is very important.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
I am also a research scholar, madam. Uh,
Okay.
Before presentation, I will prepare a lot for that presentation on that day. But once I start, ma'am, I start forgetting the things and everything. I get a lot of confusion in my mind how to present it, ma'am.
Okay.
I will prepare very, very well to the top, ma'am. But while presenting, after starting, I will be very much confused. So that I will do something, ma'am. Please help me, ma'am.
I'm not a pro in this, but I can try it. What I do is I keep a small diary with me, like a notepad kind of a thing. And whatever comes to my mind when I make presentations, I just note it down. And then I sit down. When I see the page is full, I sit down and then I prioritize actually what should I say first, so that my topic is clear enough for my audience. Okay. And if the first is clear enough, where are my supporting arguments? So you can just follow the the ideal philosophy of prioritize to understand better. That's it.
I hope the answer was very effective for our audience, and thank you so much for answering this question very graceful.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello, Professor Madam.
Yes, sir. Good
I am
afternoon, sir.
Professor Dr. Manavalan. I am retired Deputy General Manager of BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. I am now doing consulting job,
Okay,
health,
sir.
safety, environment. You have done wonderful presentation.
Oh, thank you so much, sir.
Then
Thank you.
one small question. How
Yes, sir.
language should be a barrier for communication?
Yes, sir. Language can be a barrier for communication.
How to overcome?
Sir, the easiest way to overcome a language barrier in communication is knowing what language to use when, using how to use your language when and where in correct place in order.
Okay, madam. For others understanding only, I asked this question. Thank you. Super. Thank you, Lord.
I would like to express my gratitude to all esteemed delegates of the webinar for their presentation and contribution to make this webinar a great success. I extend my gratitude to our honorable chief guest, Dr. Suhasini Sudharsini ma'am, to take out time from her busy schedule to grace the event. Thank you all of you attending to this webinar. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Bharti. Thank you, participants. Thank you, listeners. Great talking to you. And if Ria is online, I express my gratitude to her also.
Nobody. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure from my side. Thank you.